Welcome back. In this video, we will go about how to model kind of inside the cooler. As you can see right here, so we've already created this window, this glass. Now we're just going to be pushing it back into here. And we'll create the shelf and then some of these grooves for the details. And then we'll also work on the light. So. Now, if we were to open up our door window base, we know that we want to push everything straight back from here. We also have our glass there. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start off by duplicating this with Control V. Make sure I copy it. And let's call this cooler HP for high poly. With F4, I'm going to turn on my wireframe. So I'm going to real quickly just turn on the rest of this. Okay. Now we want this to go, or this cooler to start the same seam. So what I'm going to turn off my window. I'm going to select that inner ring. I'm just going to start to pull that straight back. Okay. It appears to be disappearing. Let me see. Okay, so we're going to, I have my reference pulled up on the other screen, and I know you should have the reference up on your screen as well. But now if we look at this reference, we can see it doesn't go, it goes probably about halfway, maybe a little more than halfway back. So so maybe that should be pretty decent. And then what I want to do here is I want to just cap this. So like so. Then I want to chamfer this back here. So saying that's just going to give us, well, before we chamfer, let's go ahead and select this, and we're going to inset a little bit. Let's see. I'm going to weld some of these that are really close to each other. I'm going to bring this in a little bit more. Well, actually, I'm going to go and just collapse these right to the middle. There you go. Okay. So now we can chamfer this portion here. And I'm going to turn off my edges, my wireframe, so I can see kind of how it's looking. Oops, so I want to maybe something like that. Looks pretty good. Now I'm going to select this back polygon. Just going to flatten that real quickly. Okay. Assign some smooth. There you go. Okay, so what we have now is kind of the, oh, I see what I did here. Okay, so I need to delete this back polygon because it is, I thought I deleted that. Okay, so now we can actually see into the door as we should. Okay, so we do have two overlapping pieces right now, or two overlapping meshes. So the cooler is actually overlapping with the window. So let's go ahead to delete what was the window. I'm just going to go ahead and select one of these out, my edge select or my polygon selection. Select one of these. And then I'm just going to grow that selection until we get to the inside, right there. And I'm just going to delete that. And now if we were to put our window back up, you'll see it's kind of still overlapping. So I'm going to grab this, my move and snaps toggle on. I'm going to snap that right there. Okay. So now we have our cooler door, or cooler, and then we have the window, and then we also have the glass that goes right there. Okay. So we will make that shelf. Let's see, let's pull up the reference. In fact, we can just go ahead and we're going to unfreeze the reference. We're going to snaps. So we're going to just quickly duplicate the reference, make a copy, and then we can freeze that back up. So I'm just going to select a few things I want to use. I think I'm going to use that. And I'm going to use that for now. Those will be the two things I'll be using. So I'm just delete everything else. Okay. And really for the shelf, it doesn't have to be anything too fancy. I do believe that we want the shelf to line up the inside here. So let's go and select the edge, or select the face, and then with your snaps enabled, just snap it right to the inside here. Okay. Yep. And now I'm going to select all these edges, and I'm going to just smooth them up just a hair. So, and this will kind of give it a little bit of a. This will allow it to kind of show the difference between the two surfaces. So let me get this. I'm just going to make this one. And in fact, I'm going to go to quad chamfer. Oh, I realize now that I had selected up here. I did not mean to do that. So make sure you just select the box, the shelf here, and chamfer that. Okay. So I'm going to do a quad chamfer with a tension 0.5. And that seems pretty soft, which is exactly what we want. So I'm actually going to select this and detach it, and then just call this shelf. Oops. High poly. HP. Okay. So now this will be the light. I'm just going to quickly rename that. Okay. So for this, we want to. I think it's going to be good to add a couple edges that will, or chamfers that will keep this nice and sharp when we go to actually smooth it out. So first, let's go and select that and put it inset, and then let's just collapse that inset down. I'm going to hit Alt Q as just to isolate it, because we really don't need the whole to see everything right now. So I'm going to select all these edges here, and then I'm going to chamfer these. But when we chamfer this, let's make sure to you can do a quad, but put the tension to 0. There you go. It looks like maybe You just need to do one at a time. No. Okay. So a real just small chamfer, and if you want, you can maybe bump that up just a hair more, and then put a second division there. So let's do that. Same thing here. We'll do the same chamfers along these. Oops. And so now when we go to, in fact, let's actually, let's turn that snap off and move that just a hair. And let's do another chamfer right here, but let's do just one. So now when we go to do our turbo smooth, let's turn off. We get that nice soft look that we're looking for. Okay. And we might even want to do one more. There you go. So something else that we can do, if you want to give it a kind of that bulb effect, let's go ahead and inset this. Something like that should be just fine. And move this down just a hair. And inset again a little bit more this time. And then again move it down a little bit more. And now let's go into our turbo smooth. That's okay, but I think I kind of want to have it be a little sharper right at that light start. So I'm going to add a couple swift loops. I might want to add a swift loop here as well. Okay. Okay. So let's exit our isolation. Now we have that, we have a light that just sits right inside there that has that kind of look we're going for. You can see there's a little bit of a bulb in there, kind of like LED. Okay, so next we're going to need to just do the grooves. Let's see. We're going to reference real quick. Okay, so we have, it looks like we have a little bit of a groove here, which will actually be holding on to the shelf. We have a groove above that, and then we have these larger grooves on the bottom. So let's go and start with this small groove right here. Moves out of the way. It is always a good idea to keep this opened up. I have two screens, so I usually have it on my second screen, my reference monitor. But it's always good to have a monitor with your references on it opened up. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to just create a box. So this is one of those small details that we didn't add into our box out phase because it was a subtle detail that we really didn't wasn't necessary for placement. So there'll be times where you have to make things after you've already done your box out. Okay, so let's see how this fits. Okay, that looks like it's right size. Now we just need to work on the shape a bit. And so I'm just looking at this shape and it looks like, we have, first let's convert this to poly. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple connections in here. And then stretch this out a bit. Okay. something like that. And then I'm going to go to, let's see, hide the cooler. I just want to select either one of these sides. I'm going to do a little inset. Actually, instead I'll just chamfer this. Something really small. So maybe something like that. Let's do, I actually think one will be fine. Okay. So now, in fact, I don't think I needed to chamfer that one corner, but that is fine. Just gonna flatten this out so that way it can be nice and flat into the. There you go. Okay. Now I want to just turbo smooth this, see how it looks. Not quite what I'm looking for, so I'm gonna go back and I want to pull I'm gonna pull these a little further away. Maybe something like that. Okay, that's a little closer. Now I do believe I want to have this be a little bit sharper. So let's try this. Okay. So it's starting to look more like what I want for the cooler. I think it's gonna maybe a little bit flatter actually. So I'm pushing it back into the. Okay. So it looks like we have this one in there, how we want it. And now what we want to do is create this curve around here for the shelf to go in. Now I'm looking at the shelf, actually looks like it might need to be a little bit further forward. Let's move the shelf to here forward. And what we want to do is we want this curvature, or actually, shelf might just need to be a little bit shorter in general. Okay. Yep. So we want this, if you look at the reference we have, we want this shelf, or this curvature to follow the shelf we have. So what I want to do is I want to take this shelf's shape and then use that to create this lip right here. So now what I need to do first, I'm just going to duplicate the shelf. And then I will then, I'm actually going to grab all these polygons. And so again, we just really want this shape here. What we could do is we could just apply our, let's see, so we'll just put the pivot point right about there. Okay, and then we can do a symmetry modifier. And now we have, just like that, a real easy shelf, saying it's going to hold the shelf for us. So now we do want this to be a little thicker, so I'm going to add a shell to it. And the shell is going to be significantly smaller, so something that's just barely going to push it out. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, guess we do have something inside there. I'm just gonna delete those real quick. Okay. So I want this to be a little bit flatter. And this should just butt right into the... Okay. So this needs to be just a hair bigger. Like so. Now what we have is this little bit of a edge as we just discussed. Something else we can do is we can take this shelf. Oops. I want the shelf to be just kind of just barely butt into that. So make something like that. There you go. So I want to make this our blue color. And then want to take this box and then I will attach it to the piece we just made. We'll just call it cooler inside. And actually we'll be shortly merging that to the cooler itself. Okay. So I'm going to create or put pivot point, make that. We'll lock that to the center of the world, and then what I want to do from here is I just want to do a symmetry on it and make sure we do it on the y-axis. So now we have it on both sides, like so. And we can convert that out of poly, just further down. Now what we can do is we can now we can actually attach those to the cooler mesh. So okay, so now we have our grooves on that. As we see, make the grooves on the back side, or on the bottom portion. So right there we have, and these look like they're gonna be a little sharper. So I'm gonna go back to here, and what I want to do is I want to create just the one. So I want to just go in top view, turn off my snaps. I know it's gonna be something around that size, maybe that height. Okay. Okay. And now something we want to do here is just, once again, following reference, we see it's a little sharper edge. So now probably a very, very soft or subtle chamfer could help, because we don't want it to be, so sharp, but just a very soft edge here. I'm going to start off by moving first out of poly, and then I'm going to move this down just a hair. Select, and I don't believe we will be needing this bottom polygon. So I'm just going to push this into the mesh a little bit, like so. Okay, let's see, I'm going to select the whole thing. There you go. Now selecting all the edges, just do a really subtle chamfer. There you go. I think that should be. I think this is kind of a hard edge. I might want to just make this a little bit wider there. Maybe more so. There you go. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to create 4 versions of this. And I think I might even want to push that in just a little bit more. Okay. So what I'm going to do is holding shift, I'm just going to drag out, and I'll make 3 copies. Okay, so just like that. So now I want to make sure to attach all these together. Okay. Make sure they're all poly. So let's go to my attach. I'll just select each one of these. Okay, and then we'll just center this into the object, and I want to center this on the y-axis. So it's right in the middle of the cooler, and I'll change that to my blue I've been working with. So this chapter, we create kind of the cooler, the insides of the cooler. What will end up being kind of baked onto the final model. So if I were to look at my reference, the next chapter, we can create this handle, and then we'll start to work on kind of this little coin slot or coin slot deal. So that'll be our next video.